Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So today, this article, I believe, is from across the pond. So the UK is not giving up in 2026. Um, I I kind of knew it wouldn't, to be honest. I had a feeling. There was one other article I've seen that was an Irish publication, but that one was kind of too boring. So even for me, but if I can't find anything else, then we will cover it too. Because again, this is kind of just about painting a picture, basically, of like a greater narrative. Like when we do each of these articles, it's not about one single article. It's about the whole picture. I want to see what they're saying. So again, just to remind everybody, in 2025, in January, it was, oh my gosh, we've lost everything. Oh my gosh, everything is falling apart. Things used to be so great. So I've noticed, I think, 2 articles now where the narrative is we're going to redo it, or we acknowledge that it's dead, but we want to bring it back from the dead, basically. So I think that's kind of where they're at. But we'll see. I'm going to keep reading them as they come. I do think that a lot of these articles tend to be written in January. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, this one is called How I'm Reclaiming Body Positivity in 2026. Amidst the rising use of GLP-1s and a culture of thinness, here's how I'm protecting my peace by Naomi Nicholas Williams. Okay, let's go. I've lost count of the amount of social media content I've seen this year about the so-called death of body positivity, alongside the sheer volume of posts discussing the rise of Ozempic. I've seen countless captions along the lines of, in a stream of Ozempic core, here's my body as it is. Much of this conversation has been fueled by a visible cultural shift over the past year. Weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy have moved firmly into the mainstream, endorsed by celebrities, normalized through influencer culture, and increasingly framed as a lifestyle choice rather than a medical intervention. In the UK alone, reports suggest that hundreds of thousands of people are now using GLP-1 medications, either through private prescriptions or the NHS, a number that continues to rise. As thinness reasserts itself as the dominant ideal, many people feel that the inclusive, celebratory language of body positivity has been quietly pushed aside. I felt this shift personally. During the body positivity boom of the late 2010s and early 2020s, I was working regularly as a curve model, booked for campaigns that claimed to worked for campaigns that claim to champion diversity and representation. Now that work has become far less consistent, and I found myself working outside of the modeling world to keep myself afloat. This reflects a broader industry retreat from visibly celebrating bodies that fall outside the shrinking norm. So remember, they're still using that term this year. That was one of their new ones last year. But yeah, okay. So we're keeping some relics from 2025. While I deeply respect those creators who take a stand, who show themselves in their bodies as they are and practice self-acceptance, I still find myself wondering, why does this need to feel like an act of resistance at all? It feels as though we've drifted so far from what the body positive movement, which dates back to the 1960s, originally set out to do. While the term body positivity only entered our lexicon this side of the millennium, it was decades ago that activists began campaigning for the liberation of those cruelly and unfairly treated for simply existing in a marginalized body. At its core, it was about centering those bodies and creating space for people to simply exist as they are without explanation or justification. Okay, so I disagree with some of this because, again, I would definitely debate on what the core of it was, particularly fat acceptance, body positivity, etc., which, again, body positivity was completely taken over by fat acceptance. So I don't think that the core of it lasted very long. I think it was pretty much gone by, I want to say, like 2018, so maybe there was like a few good years, in my opinion. I noticed fat acceptance basically took over it from that point, and it was really aggressively taking over it in 2019. And then when the pandemic hit, then they just went for it. So then it was basically just about fat acceptance, which fat acceptance, the core of that is the toxic ritualistic world. So it's not about just existing without explanation or justification. In fact, the entire toxic ritualistic drive is to constantly explain and constantly justify and constantly talk about it and obsess and fixate upon it, which is more so what you've seen, what I've seen, what most of us have seen in particular the last 5 years or now 6 years. So that's a long time. We're getting to like over half a decade of this type of stuff, at least, if not even before that. Really 2019, honestly, is when it took over body positivity, I would say. Again, even 2018, it was kind of starting. So it's like, that's a long time ago now. That's like almost 10 years ago, you know? So it's kind of weird to even talk about body positivity in this way when it's like that wave was basically like around 2015, 2014, 2015 time, in my estimation. That was kind of when it was starting. So it's just really kind of old, honestly, to talk about it in that way, but here we are. I also want to say, too, that I knew that Ozempic would be continued to be weaponized as the one scapegoat. So this happens within both sides. This will happen within fat acceptance, and this also happens within anti-fat acceptance, where everybody puts everything onto GLP-1 medication. So everything is explained by that medication. There's no other explanations. Nothing else is happening, right? It's just this medication, which is not true. There's actually so many different factors that have brought us to this moment. And I try to bring attention to that because I don't want people to put all of their recovery in the hope of a GLP-1, because it doesn't work for every single person in the world. It just doesn't. And it's also not necessary for most people. So I don't like that centering of it, the way that it's used. I think it's manipulatively used within fat acceptance, and it is also lazily used in anti-fat acceptance discussions, or within your average person that's against it. It's kind of lazy to just use that. There's actually a lot of different reasons why fat acceptance is faltering, and I don't think that we should just ignore that. Okay, so let's continue. Here, okay. But with the rise of Ozempic, body positivity, or even the language of being body positive, no longer feels central to the conversation. As someone who once passionately championed the movement, this shift has become noticeable and reflective of a wider cultural change towards the heroin chic of the early noughties. So this is another thing too, is there is a projection of the past. There's, again, it's so bizarre how fat acceptance will use the past. The past is horrible, but the past is glorious, right? So there was a lot of like glamorizing the past a year ago. Now the past maybe is horrible again. So they kind of are flip-flopping on this, because I think in 2024, the past was also horrible. I think that's why I was so shocked last year. When I was seeing this, I was like, what? Like, so I don't know if they just threw that out there to see if it would stick, and I guess it didn't. So we're back to the past is horrible. So that seems to be a trend for 2026. As the other article that I was looking at that is too boring, let me show it. 1 second. So this article was also using examples from old movies or older movies. Love Actually and Bridget Jones' Diary. So these are kind of old, which I might read this article, but again, it's days in the 2000s, right? Heroin chic. So you can see it, in another one right there. So I'm just trying to show you trends, okay? There's the other heroin chic, right? Kate Moss, like it's all the past is the worst thing in the world. So I think we're back to that, okay? I just had to show you because I just saw that. So I was like, okay, let's talk about it. I've come to know that my body is divine and not defined by any movement or trend. Okay. Because of this, I've chosen to move in a direction that prioritizes protecting my peace and simply existing in my vessel. The body that carries me sustains me and allows me to live each day. I hold deep gratitude for my body. My work now centers around body neutrality. Okay, I am supportive of this, very much so. I think not obsessing over it is great. I think that's great. Stepping back and recognizing the body positivity movement for what it was, a movement, and for a time it was a powerful one. Acknowledging this doesn't mean the work ends. It simply means approaching it with clarity and compassion. Oh, we might need to do this one too. 1 second, I'm gonna save it. Okay. In this space, I've come to know that my body is divine and not defined by any movement or trend. Resistance in the face of the rising Ozempic wave doesn't have to be loud or performative. Sometimes it's found in the quiet power of existing, fully and beautifully as we are. We can't dismantle systems designed to make us dislike ourselves by forcing language that no longer reflects its original intention. Okay, so I think that she's saying like body positivity is no longer about fatness in the way that it was for that time. And it's getting very spiritual, like my body is divine, right? I'll have to see if spiritual trends or spiritual language is something that comes up a lot, because I wonder if they're going in that direction too, where they might try to make it more nebulous, or like, this is about how you feel about yourself. This isn't about anybody else, which it's always been about everybody else. So that could be a shift for 2026. Again, we're looking at trends. So I'm seeing the past is horrible now. So we're back to the past is horrible. That's what I see. I've seen that in a few of these articles. So we'll see if more of them use like divine, who I am in this moment, that kind of stuff. So kind of appealing to that type of language. We'll see if that continues or if that's a one-off with this one. Preserving my peace remains paramount. Okay. So I'm gonna see if I see any of these terms over and over again. Because if that's what it is. Because the other article was saying like bodily autonomy is important and I respect what other women choose to do, kind of thing. So we'll see if that comes in too. I told you guys if we get that multiple times, then that's a huge victory, but I haven't seen that yet in this article. As we move into the new year, I hope that each person, brand, and creative does what they can for those in marginalized bodies within their own capacity, speaking up for the voices that tend to get lost in the conversation of body acceptance. I don't know whether the Ozempic wave will fade into obscurity. I hope that it does. Okay, so we'll see. I'm sure Ozempic is a huge thing this year too, because that's always mentioned, but it's been that way for years now. But if it doesn't, I hope we continue to center ourselves first, our mental health, our bodies, and our inner worlds. From there, we can choose to speak up if and when it feels aligned. In the space I occupy now, fighting for body positivity in the way I once did feels different. When the foundation of movements like the Ozempic wave is rooted in quietly encouraging self-doubt, it's understandable that the energy that once fueled body positivity has shifted. Perhaps we don't claim it exactly as it was, but instead accept its evolution. This doesn't mean hope is lost. It simply means the work is changing and continuing in new, more honest ways. To me, that paragraph is incredibly aimless, so I do think they're kind of lost. I'll see if there's more articles about how lost they are. I know Virgie Tovar is really going against Ozempic. I do follow her, and she's really talking about it a lot. But I don't know how popular her stance is or how much traction it's gaining, because fat acceptance has an interesting relationship with Ozempic, because it's kind of like it's this is just weird language. You're just gonna have to deal. But within the fat acceptance movement, Ozempic is almost like it's like an angel of death, but also their angel of salvation at the same time. Like, because they're trying to bank on if there's something wrong with it, then they're gonna run with that. Or if there's something that where it falls out of favor, like Virgie was like, so many older adults are getting off of Ozempic due to the side effects, like. So they're kind of hoping that that will end in failure, because then it would have a greater reinforcement power in the future. But it's also, they can use it to blame why it's not working, you see? So they're kind of hoping it fails, because then they can use that to catapult the movement again, if it does, or if whatever failure would look like. Then, but in the meantime, any failure that they have, they can just blame it on Ozempic at the same time. So Ozempic, like I said, it's their angel of death and their angel of salvation at the same time. It's kind of like, this is the reason why everything is so horrible. It has nothing to do with how we've acted. It has nothing to do with our messaging. It has nothing to do with the flaws of our movement or the argument of our movement, the argument of the things we've said. It's only because of Ozempic. That is the only reason why we are losing ground. So, again, it's interesting. When Ozempic started, I was more worried about how anti-fat acceptance would utilize it and talk about it and use it as a weapon. I knew that both sides would, but now that I'm no longer downsizing, I can kind of focus more on how fat acceptance is using it. And it's become just like a scapegoat. It's like a lazy explanation, which shouldn't surprise anybody that they're really lazy, basically. Gosh, my stomach is going crazy today. Must be because I'm talking about Ozempic. It's freaking me out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I just had a roast. I don't know. I shouldn't have, I guess. Looking ahead to 2026, I hold a vision of collective discernment, a gentle rejection of anything that pulls us away from ourselves, and a powerful rise in radically loving who we are. I hope you'll join me. Okay. So she's kind of going for a more individualist approach, which I find interesting. So we'll see, because she's more about like focus on your peace, focus on yourself, that kind of thing. So I'll see if that's also a big narrative too. I'm just trying to get a whole picture. But that's everything in this one. I will be back soon. Well, you know what? This is too short. Let's do the other one that's kind of boring. Okay, and we'll see if they're similar. I'm like, this is too short for me. Hold on. Okay, so this one is from the article Her, which I just looked at the about, and it said that it's for Irish women. So let's check it out really quick. I think it's pretty short. I hope we learn how to be body positive again in the new year. Is the era of body positivity over? I watch Love Actually and Bridget Jones' Diary every Christmas, and they are two films I never truly get sick of. That is, until both Natalie and Bridget are mocked for being fat. Both Natalie and Bridget are probably a size 10, and even if they weren't, they shouldn't be mocked over their bodies. As a teenager, I remember being astonished by comments about Natalie's allegedly huge thighs and feeling baffled by Bridget's obsession with losing weight. There was nothing wrong with either of these women. There still isn't, but society loves to make us think our value equates to the size of our hips and whether or not we fit into a certain pair of jeans. So I don't think I've seen Love Actually, but I did watch Bridget Jones' Diary one time. And it was like years ago. It was like, I think it was like 2021, 2022. Like it was a minute ago. So I don't remember it 100,000%. But to me, it just seemed like it was more comedic that she was caring about her weight. Like it was kind of like to add to the joke. Basically, it's like just something that adds to the characterization. That's how I viewed it. Again, it's been a minute though. So I think it was just like a personality quirk kind of thing, or like part of the character. It's kind of like she's obsessed with it, but she's not doing it because she's kind of a flop in general. So I thought that that's what it was, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if it was that deep, because she was still like romantically sought after and all that stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if she was, I don't know what the movie itself was saying. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it was really saying all that much about it, if I remember. But I don't know. Maybe I don't remember. As a teenager, I remember being sorry, I read that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with either of these women. There still isn't, but society loves to make us think our value equates to the size of our hips and whether or not we fit into a certain pair of jeans. I know the comments are outdated and stem from a time when the Special K diet was a good thing, a time when magazines slated women for gaining, dare I say it, 2 pounds. It was the era of heroin chic, of Kate Moss claiming that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, and being thin was the only way to be. Any other body type was mocked, ridiculed, and never celebrated. Okay, and now we're getting past the complete overreaction and equal opposite of that, basically. So now where are we going? However, many women helped us move past the heroin chic days in the 2000s, and we happily moved into the body positive era. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to cut the labels off my clothes or deny myself meals with the hope of finally being a size that was acceptable. I don't know. I'm always cringed out when they say this because it's like maybe that was your personal experience, but it wasn't the case for everybody. It's not like like these feelings are not universal. They're not universally applied to everybody at the same time. Like it's like you literally were just in an online bubble. I say that every time, but I think it cringes me out every time, honestly. Fast forward to the mid-2010s, and my Instagram feed was now full of people with all kinds of bodies, and most importantly, all kinds of bodies were not only being accepted, but also celebrated. However, it feels like we're slipping away from the era of embracing our bodies for what they are and are diving headfirst into the darker era of Special K diets and seeking worth from nothing but the labels on our clothes. So I think a lot of the celebration was kind of a cope, and it was through a belief that it was truly impossible to downsize. And it was through the idea, when, at least in the United States, obesity was called a disease, like around 2013. And a lot of people in the toxic ritualistic world took that to mean that it's completely permanent. It can never change. There were even articles that were written at the time that said that. I think I covered one on this channel a long ass time ago, where I talked about, I covered a news article from 2014 where it said that it's impossible to lose and keep it off. It's impossible. So you had mainstream media saying that. I think there was even one in Canada or something from a while back too. It wasn't just in America. So that was kind of mainstream. It was a full force TR push at the time that it was totally impossible. So then you had a lot of copium, basically, to use a cringe term. But you had a lot of that. And I think that that's basically what it was. And then you have now there's been so many examples of public downsizing, or a lot more, particularly since 2020 and everything that happened, and especially starting in 2023 with the rise of Ozempic and also the end of the panini and people getting their shape back and wanting to get their shape back and all that stuff. And it just really took off. Plus, again, there's a lot of financial reasons. The cost of food skyrocketed in 2022 and gave a lot of people an incentive to downsize that were poor. Ozempic became more mainstream and gave richer people, or middle to high upper class people, an incentive to lose as well. So you have all across the class spectrum drive to downsize because of different economic and social factors, and also a lot of people that gained, but not necessarily permanently, during 2020 due to the conditions that we were all under. So that's a lot. So it's kind of like this collective weight gain moment in 2020 and then a collective loss moment in 2023. And that's basically what happened, and it just shattered the idea that it's not possible. And as each year passes, it's becoming clearer and clearer that it is possible. Because again, we're already getting to 3 years. They say 3 to 5 years, everybody regains. It's probably not going to happen. So it's worse for them this year as people don't regain. It'll be even worse in 2027 and just horrifically bad for them in 2028 if people don't radically regain. So that's kind of my picture, which I think is more complete, to be honest, than just saying Ozempic, basically. But anyways, let's continue. Celebrity stylist Ariel Tunnell echoed these feelings in an interview with NBC. I think we're all aware that we are taking a step backwards. There was a bigger push for inclusivity and body acceptance of all shapes and sizes that feels like it is trending backwards. If no one fights and no one continues to speak up, I think thin will always be in and thin will always win, because that is unfortunately ingrained in our society. And unless we are always kind of bucking that norm, it's not going to be broken. So again, the past was horrible, right? We're going back to the past, and the past is bad. So they're going back to that past is bad view in 2026. But this one is interesting because that's like, we have to fight, but it's an inevitable loss. Which to me, this statement is kind of toxic ritualistic. So it's like we have to fight against it. Because thin will always be in and it will always win, because that's ingrained into our society. So it's like we have to continue to try to push against it even though we're going to fail. Which that's a very like psychologically toxic ritualistic way of looking at it. And again, it shows the underpinnings of a lot of what they're talking about. In the past few days, and then this, we're always bucking that norm. It's not going to be broken. So again, it's like the worship of thinness, the pedestalization of thinness, that's the norm. So we have to be that complete and equal opposite to it. It's basically what they're saying, which I would say no, we have to reject it entirely because it's all stupid. That's what I say. In the last few days of 2025, my TikTok has been full of transformation videos of women celebrating their 2025 weight loss and of celebrities who look like a shadow of their former selves due to the glamorization of Ozempic in Hollywood, and it's concerning. I fear we're turning our backs on the body positive era that so many activists led us toward, and now we're returning to an era where being skinny is the only acceptable way to be. So again, they like to use the word skinny because it has certain connotations, when in reality, for the vast majority of people are still obese, So it's like, maybe there is a toxic ritualistic thing with celebrity culture or the media, like there's a worship of media and worship of celebrity or something. But in reality, if you step outside, there's a lot of fat people. So I don't know if a lot of these people touch grass, I don't know. There's no shame in losing weight. Okay, so we're back to the body autonomy narrative. There's no shame in losing weight or in using medication to lose weight if your doctor recommends it, but there is shame in erasing years of body positivity. This one is another retreat. There is no harm in changing your body, whether that's losing or gaining weight. That's fascinating. So that's a big, that's a huge L. Like they are walking that back. So I'm seeing this multiple times now. So I'm seeing them say, it's not about what other people do. It's about us. It's not about others. It's about us. So that is a victory for anti-fat acceptance because this is a retreat ideologically. If it's for the sake of your physical and mental health, but there's so much harm in failing to celebrate more than one body type. We are all aware of those misusing downsizing drugs, but that shouldn't take away from the many people they have helped. The concern here is the return of blank culture and how society and Hollywood are doing very little to stop it from returning, but we are almost welcoming it back with open arms. Jamila Jamil is one of the few celebrities continuing to keep the body positive message alive. She has tirelessly called out, she's being cited a lot. Okay. She has tirelessly called out the glamorization of the aesthetic of emaciation. It's not body shaming to comment on the fact that there is a rapid rise in the aesthetic of emaciation amongst women in Hollywood, the activist said in a TikTok video in November. It's hypocritical within the movement, so it's like you can't say anything, but you can if they're too thin. It's just weird. They kind of painted themselves into a corner because it's like you have to not acknowledge the health effects of weight, but if somebody's on the thinner side, then you have to acknowledge it, but you also can't. But you should, but you shouldn't, because you should always be encouraging people to be bigger. That's basically what they do. So it's like, it's really weird. And it's weird that they're citing her. Like, I think if I was in the movement, I wouldn't cite her because her message is not consistent enough. But again, I think it's in shambles, honestly. I think that's what I'm seeing. I think they're really lost. They just don't know. And they don't have a leader, really. There's no leadership. So I feel like there's kind of this vacuum within the movement. Because Aubrey Gordon, I don't know if she's been as present. Because she was kind of the leader for a while. And I don't see it that much. Like I said, Virgie's trying. But I don't think it's working. I don't think people are listening to Virgie. Tess Holliday, she was a leader, but she's weird now. Like, she's kind of flip-flopped a lot. So, I don't know. I think that they're just kind of in shambles, basically. That's the best way I can put it. We can be concerned about the rise in trends like skinny talk and the glamorization of downsizing drugs without attacking individuals or making personal choices about their own bodies. In 2026, I hope we refocus our efforts to ensure all people feel good in their own skin. I hope we put more effort into not only spreading body positive messages, but embracing them ourselves too. You should be encouraged to love the body you have, but one scroll through social media right now and you'll be met with ways to change it, diet tips you didn't know you needed, and transformation videos of celebrities you'll barely recognize today. Many of us will prepare for the onslaught of New Year, New Me messages that roll around every January, but the only resolution we'll be focusing on is to relearn how to love our bodies just as they are, because society has failed to keep the body positive message alive, and it's up to us to use our voices to revive it. I want to go into 2026 and let go of thoughts about dropping dress sizes so people will accept me. I want to let go of unhealthy eating habits like skipping lunch. Are there other unhealthy eating habits that you might be doing? I want to stop feeling guilty for eating something unhealthy. I want to stop focusing on the number on the scales or the size of my clothes. I want to simply like the body I have and ensure it is a healthy one. The body positive era helped erase those damaging thoughts and habits, but the glamorization of one body type is causing unjust damage to our society, and that is what we need to undo in 2026. We need to at least try and let go of the damaging messages that have haunted us since the days of the Special K diet era that resurfaced in 2025 and leave them behind once the clock strikes midnight tonight. Okay. So that was interesting. But yeah, to me, it's just giving like I'm coping. It's giving the movement is in shambles. We have to rehash the same stuff from the past, which they've been doing this for years already. And I don't think they realize it's not working. Like, a lot of the younger generation doesn't understand the Special K thing. Like, they weren't alive or they weren't around. So, and then for a lot of people who are even older than millennials, it's like it was worse in the 90s and in the 80s. It was way worse than the Special K moment. So it's like, I feel like a lot of millennial women are just completely lost at this time. And I think they're understanding that their perspectives are not popular. And I don't know if they can see that. And to me, I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit of midlife energy too. Like, I think there's a lot of layers to these articles because it's like, can these millennial women accept the fact that they're not in control of everything, or that they're not in control of what's cool anymore? They never convinced the younger generation of their way. They didn't convince the older generations, really. Like, a lot of millennials have left. Like, I think I was somewhat sympathetic to body positivity or fat acceptance in like 2015, but it's like it's been 10 years and it failed. And so a lot of millennials have left, and it's like, I don't know. So who's holding on still, And that's, I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit of midlife energy or something to it. I hate to say that because it's just kind of shady, but it's like, I don't know what else this is. This is just cringe overall. And I think they've lost the control. Like, people know it's possible to lose now. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest problem that they have, because that wasn't there. And again, I was one of many voices that fought for that to be known. And I did my darndest. I did my damnedest to make that known and to show it in great detail. And that will be the backdrop of all my future activism, because I did that in these years. But I wasn't the only one. There were many, many people that downsized using different tools, different ways, different paths. And that collective is showing people that it is possible. And if it's possible, then people are like, okay, well, then I don't want to be fat. And why should you? You don't get a prize for being fat. You really don't. If anything, you just get a lot of health issues. That's basically it. But with that, you guys, I'm going to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I did a two for one today. And we can see how they were similar but different. They were both from that part of the world. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.